I have never played any of the Final Fantasy games. I know, sue me, take away my gamer card, I'm sorry. But you know what I have played a lot of, and I do mean a lot of? Magic the Gathering. I've played a lot of Magic the Gathering. And to tell you the truth, I did not have any interest in the Final Fantasy set when it first came out. I hadn't even opened a single pack until this week. But now that I've opened a few packs and have kind of gotten a feel for the set, I will admit there's some good stuff in there. So in order to get to know the set just a little bit better, I set myself a commander deck building challenge. And here it is. 5 EDH decks, 5 monocolor commanders, no lore knowledge, just vibes. Here are the 5 commanders I chose. Will they be good? Will they be fun? You bet your chocobo they will. But first, let's get a word from today's sponsor, GGTs. GGTs is a hand-drawn t-shirt company based on your favorite TCGs and TTRPGs. They have so many fun and unique styles and are putting out new designs all the time. I saw so many people wearing these at MagicCon Vegas, and they have quickly become my go-to for any Magic event. This Don't Kill My Creatures one is my absolute favorite. Whether you're a dungeon master, casual card slinger, or a cardboard fanatic, GGTs has something for you. And right now, you can use my code VQCosplay or click the link in the description to get 15% off your entire order. So you can check out GGTs through the link in the description. If you click the link, it really helps me out, helps the channel. Use code VQCosplay for 15% off and you get to support the channel and local artists. Thank you again to GGTs for sponsoring the video. I wanted to start with mono green, and because it's my channel, I get to do what I want, so we're starting with mono green. So for our mono green commander, I chose Bartz and Boko. I am assuming that Bartz is the guy and Boko is the little chocobo fella? I'm assuming. Why did I choose this commander? Because I will take any opportunity to make a bird deck. And there's just something about these little fellas that tickles me. Also, sorry Tifa fans, I didn't build your favorite, but she is in here, I promise. So for this deck, I wanted to build around 2 main themes: birds and landfall through land sacrifice and recursion. We're gonna make sure we hit all of our landfall triggers. Value, baby. The only slight problem I ran into is, do you know how many mono green birds there are in Magic? Let me tell you, not a freaking enough. Before this set's release and all the chocobos that came with it, there were maybe 4 all told. All the birds are mostly blue or white, so I kind of had to stretch the definition of bird just a little with some changelings. Don't look at me like that, we do what we gotta do. So we have our commander, Bartz and Boko, which for 3 and 2 green has affinity for birds, which is gonna be a lot easier to get him out later down the line. And when he enters, each other bird we control will do damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. Not too bad. Now let's meet our other birds. We have our 3 chocobos, obviously with Saz. Saz, is that how you say it? Again, I don't know the lore. I'm just going off what I got here. We have Saz's chocobo that's gonna grow with our landfall, traveling chocobo that's gonna help us filter out our deck a little bit by letting us see the top of our library and being able to pull them from the top, as well as doubling our landfall triggers. We also have Summon Fat Chocobo, which gives us another token. We'll give our attackers trample for a few turns at least, in addition to being a 4/4 bird while we have it out. And the more birds, the better. We also have a couple spells that will give us birds such as Geishel Greens, Chocobo Racetrack, and Side Quest Raise a Chocobo, which will eventually, hopefully, transform into Black Chocobo once we have 4 birds. And to fill out the real birds in our list, I have added the only other 4 green birds that I could find that I mentioned before. Of course, we have the classic Birds of Paradise, Gilded Goose, which is one of my personal favorites, Owlbear, and Owlbear Cub. We also have Castle Lurkwood Pathfinder that is a bird sometimes, but does find us a land on entering. And finally, we have Sanctuary Raptor and Anvil Rot Raptor rounding out our cardboard aviary. And that is literally the end of the birds. The bird stops here. As I mentioned before, most bird cards are typically in white or blue, which, well, it doesn't really work. So let's move on to the proverbial cowbirds in our chocobo nest. Did you know that brown-headed cowbirds are brood parasites that will lay their eggs in different birds' nests, leaving them to be raised by a different mother and drawing the attention of their foster bird away from their own chicks? Bird fact! It's time to meet our changelings. We have a pretty big selection of changelings, all of which do kind of different things. We've got Universal Automaton, which is a 1/1 for 1, and Woodland Changeling, which is a 2/2 for 2. Hey! They're birds now. I'm sorry, they're birds now. 3-tree mascot, boom. You're a bird now that taps for mana. We've got Realm Walker for 2 and a green that lets us play birds from the top of our library, and Bloodline Pretender, 3 generic, gets 1/1 counters as birds enter. We'll have a few last creatures that aren't birds. They're not bird imposters, but we'll fill in a few of the cracks that our birds just can't fill. Elvish Mystic, because have you ever seen a mono green deck that doesn't have a minute? Azusa Lost, but Seeking and Oracle of Muldaya allow us to play additional lands on our turns, and more land means more value, baby, and more birds. We're gonna really ramp up with cards like Rampant Rejuvenator, 3 and a green that will find us X basic lands when it dies, where X is its power. Saz Catsroy, also 3 and a green, which gives us the option to either fetch a bird or a land to our hand, and it'll pass out counters. Maybe to the Rejuvenator. Then we have our landfall creatures such as Tifa Lockhart. I told you she was in here. She has trample, and whenever a land enters, her power will double until end of turn, and she's kind of here for the flavor. Ringheart Nantuko, which when cast for its bestow cost, can potentially have us making copies of whichever creature we have it enchant on every landfall. Tireless Tracker and Tireless Provisioner, which turns each land drop into a clue and a food or a treasure, which hopefully we'll be able to multiply. We also have 2 golems, Roaming Throne, which will give us an additional trigger for each chosen creature type, as well as being that type as well, and Brass Herald, which lets us pull birds from the top 4 upon entering and giving all birds +1/+1. And it truly would not be a Final Fantasy deck without at least a couple extra Saga creatures. So we do have Summon Fenrir, which will grab us a land, buff our creatures, and then hopefully draw us a card in the end. We also have Summon Titan, which will return a land from our graveyard, secondary land theme that I've kind of chosen for this deck, and buff our creatures according to our lands and giving them trample. Hopefully, this is one of the closer cards. And finally, in no real category but her own, we have Titania Nature's Force, the true forest baddie. We can play lands from our graveyard, create elementals upon lands entering, and mill when elementals die, which will come in handy later. While this might seem like a traditional landfall deck on first glance, we have kind of a secondary theme that I've built in. Land destruction. But Sophia, why would anyone want to play against that? Well, don't worry, we're only sacrificing our own land. Because I am never satisfied with simply one trigger, we will be sacrificing our lands and bringing them back over and over and over again. We will be sacrificing or milling land into our graveyards with cards like Titania Nature's Force, Summon Titan, Zuron Orb, Crop Rotation, ooh, Game Changer, Entish Restoration, Roiling Regrowth, and Harrow. And we'll be able to put them back on the battlefield, therefore getting us another landfall trigger with Conduit of Worlds, Titania again, she is really putting in work in this deck, and Crucible of Worlds. We're going to pair these with lands like Prismatic Vista, Terramorphic Expanse, Fabled Passage, and Evolving Wilds, which will not only get us 2 instances of a landfall trigger for the card entering, and then searching for the card entering, we will also be able to pull it out over and over again from the graveyard to never miss a land drop. And between cards like Burgeoning, Case of the Locked Hothouse, Exploration, Azusa, and the Oracle, we'll be able to get multiple land drops on our turns and land drops on our opponent's turns as well. We will be swimming in forests. We have Further Ramp with 3 visits and Rampant Growth. Emerald, Medallion, and Earth Crystal will further discount our green spells, as well as doubling counters on our creatures from the Earth Crystal. We'll get further landfall benefits from Ride the Shoopoof, 1 and a green giving us 1/1 counter anytime a land enters, Roaring Earth to give us 1/1 counters when a land enters, Chocobo Racetrack that will give us a 2/2 bird when a land enters, and Case of the Locked Hothouse, which once we have 7 lands, will let us play lands and cast creatures from the top of our library. We'll throw in a Druid class to gain life and play additional lands. I almost never use its level 3, but the first 2 fit perfectly for what we're trying to build here. We'll throw in a Great Henge for some more ramp and some life, a Doubling Season, because it's doubling season, and we'll throw in a Growing Rights as well to search the top of our library and get a land that taps for green for each creature we control. Got our Nest of Birds and Not So Birds. We've got our Garden Flourishing. What we need now is to protect our little guys from our mean, scary opponents. I've thrown in Chocobo Kick to do damage equal to target creature's power to another creature, and we can kick it and kick with double their power. Now that's a kick that packs a punch. We're gonna add a Frozen Grip, Return to Nature, and Ram Through. Bartz and Boko also will do damage when he enters. Our Great Bird Defender. While we may not have the biggest defense in this deck, we aren't really looking to win by keeping our opponents from building a board. We're hoping to get so big that it's truly not gonna matter. So finally, we're gonna give our birds some drip. We're putting in Swiftfoot boots to equip and give our creatures hexproof and haste, and get damage through just a little faster. We're further gonna benefit from our typal creatures with Coat of Arms, giving creatures +1/+1 for each creature that shares its type, Vanquisher's Banner, which will give our birds +1/+1, and Herald's Horn, which will discount our birds and put them into our hand from the top of our library. Finally, Banner of Kinship and Door of Destinies will get counters when we play birds and give those birds +1/+1 for each counter on them. Throw in a Worldly Tutor to help us find creatures we may want, and we're done! That's our bird land deck! Thanks for watching! Hey, psst! What? You forgot land? Oh yeah, no, that is probably important for a landfall deck to have some land in it, huh? Alright, well this deck has 36 land. I typically like to stick to 35 to 37. I know everyone has a number that they claim is the right number, but I like to stick to that zone. I'm only a little superstitious about it. So we have 27 basic forests, Prismatic Vista, Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Woodland, Blighted Woodland, and Fabled Passage that will get us those multiple landfall triggers, and we'll perpetually be able to pull them out of the graveyard to hit our land drops. Cavern of Souls, Declaring Birds, Path of Ancestry to Scry, Animal Sanctuary for 2 allows us to put a 1/1 counter on target bird, and finally, the crowning jewel in our land base, the Gaia's Cradle. Game changers! And that's our Bartz and Boko commander deck. We've got birds, we've got lands that we can keep getting triggers off of, and plenty of Final Fantasy flavor. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest of the decks in this challenge. Next week, we're going to be building everyone's favorite Sephiroth Fabled Soldier. Thank you again so much to GGTs for sponsoring this video, and use code VQCosplay to get 15% off and support the channel. You can find me everywhere at VanQuig Cosplay, and if you want to see this deck in action, tune in tonight because we're streaming Convoked, and I'm going to be playing it over on Convoked, and you get to see how it plays in real time. See you there. Thanks!